Captain Hyunwoo Kim stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the stars shift as his ship pushed through the darkness of space. It was the year 2247, and humanity had finally done it. They had cracked faster than light travel. After centuries of dreaming, humans were finally reaching for the stars. "Captain, we're approaching the designated coordinates," said Taiho Park from the navigation station. The young officer's hands moved across his console with practiced ease. "We should be entering unexplored space in 3 minutes." Hyunwoo nodded, feeling excitement build in his chest. The Horizon was Earth's first deep space exploration vessel, sent to map the galaxy and search for other intelligent life. For weeks, they had traveled through empty space, finding nothing but dead rocks and distant stars. Some people back home were starting to wonder if humanity was alone in the universe. "Captain," Taiho's voice suddenly turned urgent. "I'm detecting something strange. There's some kind of boundary ahead. An energy field, I think." Dr. Narration, the ship's xenobiologist, looked up from her research station. "A natural phenomenon?" "I don't think so," Taiho replied, his eyes wide. "The pattern is too regular, too precise. This is artificial." Hyunwoo felt his pulse quicken. "Take us through slowly." Full sensor sweep. The horizon moved forward, and the moment they crossed the invisible line in space, every alarm on the ship began screaming. The communications array lit up like a festival display, detecting thousands upon thousands of signals from every direction. "What in the world?" Nari rushed to her station, her fingers flying across the controls. "Captain, I'm picking up transmissions in hundreds of different languages." "No, thousands." "And they're all around us, forming a sphere around Earth's entire stellar neighborhood." Hyunwoo's mind raced. Thousands of languages meant thousands of species. They weren't alone. They had never been alone. "Can you translate any of it?" Nari worked in silence for several minutes, her face growing pale as she processed the data. "Captain, I think you need to see this." She put the translation on the main screen. The message appeared in simple human English, though it had been converted from something else entirely. Hyunwoo read it aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. "Warning! Do not approach the death world. Quarantine in effect. The enduring ones decree this zone forbiddance. Turn back or face consequences unknown." The bridge fell silent. Every crew member stared at the screen in disbelief. "Death world?" Taiho said finally. "They're talking about Earth." "It gets worse," Nari said quietly. She brought up more data. "These warning buoys have been here for thousands of years. Some of them for over 50,000 years. And they're all saying the same thing in different languages. Stay away from Earth. Stay away from humanity." Hyunwoo felt a chill run down his spine. "But why? What makes Earth so dangerous?" "I don't know," Nari admitted. "But someone out there thinks we're a threat. A big enough threat to quarantine an entire section of the galaxy for thousands of years." Over the next several hours, the crew worked to intercept and decode alien communications passing through nearby space. What they discovered was even more shocking. The galaxy was full of life. Hundreds of spacefaring civilizations traveled between the stars, trading and communicating. But all of them carefully avoided Earth's sector of space. "Listen to this," Nari said, playing back a decoded conversation between two alien ships. The computer translated their words into human speech. "The aliens are discussing trade routes. One of them suggests a shorter path that would pass near our solar system. The other refuses, saying he won't risk going near the death world, even if it saves weeks of travel time." "They're afraid of us," Taiho said in wonder. "Actually afraid." Hyunwoo stared at the star map on the main screen, showing the vast empty zone around Earth. It was like looking at a disease quarantine from outside. Humanity had been living inside a cosmic isolation ward and never knew it. Sir, I'm detecting movement, the tactical officer called out. Multiple ships approaching our position. Big ones, battle stations. Humu ordered immediately. But hold fire. Let's see what they want. 3 massive vessels materialized from behind the moon of a nearby gas giant. They were unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. One looked like it was made of crystal, another seemed to be a living organism, and the third was a construct of pure light and metal. We're being hailed, the communications officer said. They're using our language. They must have learned it from our transmissions. Put them through. A voice filled the bridge, sounding ancient and tired. Human vessel. You have crossed the quarantine boundary. This is forbiddance. Return to your world immediately, or we will be forced to act. Himwu took a deep breath. This was it. Humanity's first contact with alien life, and they were being told to go home. This is Captain Himwu Kim of the Earth vessel Horizon. We don't understand. Why has Earth been quarantined? What threat do we pose? There was a long pause. You do not know? Your people truly do not know? Know what? Another pause, even longer this time. Captain Kim, return to Earth. Gather your leaders. Tell them the Galactic Council will meet with them. Tell them the Enduring Ones have questions. And tell them to be very, very careful. Your species carries something that has destroyed civilizations before. Something that has brought chaos to the galaxy. Something you cannot see, cannot touch, but spreads like wildfire wherever humans go. What is it? Hyunwoo demanded. What do we carry? That, the alien voice said, is what we must discover. Before it is too late. Before you do to the galaxy what you did to the Volcurian Empire 50,000 years ago. The transmission ended. The 3 alien ships vanished as quickly as they had appeared, leaving the Horizon alone in the darkness. Hyunwoo looked at his crew, seeing his own confusion and fear reflected in their faces. Humanity had finally reached the stars, only to discover they have been locked away for a reason. And somewhere in Earth's past or in humanity's nature was a secret so dangerous that ancient aliens still feared it after thousands of years. Plot a course back to Earth, Hyunwoo said quietly. We need to tell them everything. The world needs to know. We're not alone in the universe. And for some reason, everyone else wishes we were. 6 months had passed since the Horizon returned to Earth with news that changed everything. Humanity was not alone, but they were feared. Now, Ambassador Yuna Lee stood in a chamber that existed between dimensions. A meeting place created by the Galactic Council, specifically for this historic first contact. Around her floated representatives of species that had traveled to stars for millions of years. Some looked like living machines. Others were pure energy held in containment fields. A few resembled Earth animals, but with intelligence burning in their eyes that made Yuna's skin prickle. Behind her stood Kyun Choi, Earth's military strategist, his hand never far from the weapon at his side, even though he knew it would be useless here. But Yuna's attention was fixed on the beings in the center of the chamber. The Enduring Ones. They were massive crystalline entities, their bodies seeming to contain entire galaxies within them. They pulsed with soft light, ancient beyond measure. Humans, one of the Enduring Ones spoke, its voice resonating through Yuna's bones rather than her ears. You have finally left your cradle. We hoped this day would never come. Yuna straightened her shoulders, refusing to be intimidated. With respect, we deserve to know why our world was quarantined. We've harmed no one. We've done nothing to justify this treatment. A murmur ran through the alien representatives. Some made sounds that the translator rendered as gasps or nervous laughter. One being, resembling a floating jellyfish made of metal, spoke up. Nothing? Your species says you've done nothing? The humans truly don't know, another alien said. its tone somewhere between amazement and terror. They don't remember. The lead enduring one pulsed brighter. Then we must show them. Humans of Earth, we have watched your world for 200,000 years. We have kept careful records of every attempt to make contact with your species. The results have always been the same. Disaster. The chamber darkened, and images began to appear in the air around them. Una watched, transfixed, as the history unfolded before her eyes. 50,000 years ago, the Valkyrian Empire ruled a third of this galaxy, the Enduring One explained. They were peaceful, advanced, and prosperous. They had existed in harmony for 3 million years. Then they discovered Earth. The images showed magnificent cities on distant worlds, filled with beings that looked like giant insects made of gold. A small Valkyrian research team landed on Earth. Your species was primitive then, barely using stone tools. The Valkyrians studied humanity for one of your years, then returned home. Una leaned forward. What happened? Within a century, the Valkyrian Empire began to fracture. Their people started questioning the authority of their queens. They demanded individual freedoms. They wanted to explore and create rather than follow the paths their ancestors had walked for millions of years. Within 500 years, their empire had collapsed into civil war. Within 1,000 years, their species was extinct. The images shifted, showing other civilizations, each one more advanced than the last, each one making contact with Earth at different points in human history, and each one falling into chaos afterward. The Talmesian Collective, 20,000 years ago, the Enduring One continued. They sent diplomats to meet with early human tribes. The humans shared stories around fires, spoke of dreams and personal ambitions. The Talmesians, who had existed as a unified hive mind for 8 million years, began to experience individual thoughts for the first time. It drove them insane. Their civilization collapsed within generations. Kiyun spoke for the first time, his voice tight. You're saying we're some kind of disease? That contact with humans destroys civilizations? Not a disease, a different Enduring One replied. Something more subtle, more dangerous. Your species carries ideas that act like a virus to other civilizations. Concepts that seem harmless to you, but are catastrophic to those who have evolved without them. Una shook her head. I don't understand. What ideas? What concepts? The Enduring Ones pulsed in unison, and when they spoke, their voices merged into one. Individual liberty, personal ambition, the questioning of authority, the drive to change and evolve rather than maintain stability, the belief that one person's dreams matter as much as the survival of their species. These are uniquely human traits. Ambassador Lee. Most species in the galaxy evolved as collectivists or as rigid hierarchies, or as unchanging civilizations that valued stability above all else. Another alien, this one looking like a living flame, spoke up. My people have maintained the same government, the same culture, the same way of life for 6 million years. It has kept us safe. It has kept us peaceful. The idea that individuals should question this, should want to change this, is terrifying to us. The galaxy has been stable for 12 million years, the lead Enduring One said. We Enduring Ones are the oldest surviving species. We have seen thousands of civilizations rise and fall. But for the past 12 million years, the galaxy has been at peace. Species trade, communicate, and coexist. There are no wars, no revolutions, no chaos. Do you know why? Una felt cold. Because everyone accepted things as they were. Precisely. The galaxy chose stability over change, safety over freedom, collective survival over individual dreams. And it worked, human. For 12 million years, it worked. Until now. Kyun stepped forward. You can't expect us to just accept this. To go back to Earth and hide forever because our way of thinking scares you. We do not expect, the Enduring One said. We decree. The quarantine must remain. You will return to Earth and you will stay there. We will provide you with technology for defense so that you may protect yourselves. But you will not leave your solar system. You will not spread your dangerous ideas to the rest of the galaxy. And if we refuse? Yuna asked quietly. The entire chamber fell silent. Every alien present turned to look at her, and she felt the weight of millions of years of civilization bearing down on her. Then we will be forced to act, the Enduring One said, its voice heavy with something that might have been regret. We have the power to seal your solar system behind barriers you cannot break. Or, if necessary, to ensure your species never leaves Earth again. We do not wish to harm you, humans. But we will not allow you to destroy the peace we have maintained for 12 million years. Yuna looked at Kyun, then back at the assembled aliens. She thought of Earth, of humanity's dreams of reaching the stars, of all the people back home who had waited their whole lives for this moment. She thought of the courage it took for humans to keep trying, to keep dreaming, to keep reaching for something better. And she thought of what these aliens were asking them to give up. Everything that made humans human. We need time to discuss this with our people, Yuna said finally. We need to understand what we're truly dealing with. You have 1 Earth year, the Enduring One replied. After that, we must have your answer. Accept the quarantine voluntarily, or face its enforcement. The choice is yours, but the quarantine is not negotiable. The galaxy cannot afford another awakening. The meeting ended, and Yuna found herself back aboard Earth's diplomatic ship, her heart pounding. Kyun looked at her with grim determination. They're asking us to lock ourselves away forever, he said. To give up everything that makes us who we are, just to keep their galaxy peaceful and unchanging. Yuna nodded slowly. Yes, but they're also telling us something else. They're telling us that human ideas are powerful enough to topple empires that have stood for millions of years. They're telling us that what we believe, what we dream, what we fight for, is stronger than anything else in the galaxy. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No, Yuna said. It's supposed to make you understand what's really at stake. We're not just deciding whether humanity can travel the stars. We're deciding whether the entire galaxy will remain frozen in time or finally learn to grow again. Earth had made its decision. Despite the warnings, despite the threats, humanity chose to engage with the galaxy. Limited contact was established with several alien species brave enough to risk interaction with the Death World. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges began. And Dr. Sun Han, a psychologist assigned to monitor these interactions, started noticing something strange. Look at this data, Sun said to his colleague, showing her reports from the Krelvan trading post. The Krelvan were a species of blue-skinned humanoids who had volunteered to establish the first permanent human-alien marketplace. 3 months ago, the Krelvan workers followed their schedule exactly. Every single day, the same routine, just as their ancestors had done for 2 million years. Now look at this week's reports. His colleague, Jiang Quan, Earth's lead trade negotiator, leaned in to read. They're requesting different shifts, asking to modify their work schedules. More than that, Sun said, pulling up more files. They're creating art, personal art, not the traditional collective pieces their culture has produced for millennia. Look at this painting. It's signed by an individual Krelvan named Kelvar. He said, and I quote, I wanted to express my own vision of the stars, not what others have seen before me. Jian frowned. That doesn't sound bad. It sounds like growth. Maybe, Sun said carefully. But remember what the Enduring One said. Human ideas spread like a virus. I think we're seeing it happen in real time. Over the following weeks, Sunwoo's concerns grew. The pattern wasn't limited to the Krovan. Every species that had significant contact with humans began exhibiting behavioral changes. The Metheny, a species that had lived under a strict caste system for 4 million years, suddenly had members questioning their assigned roles. Workers wanted to become artists. Soldiers wanted to become teachers. The entire social structure that had kept their civilization stable was beginning to crack. The Vorlon Collective, a hive mind species, reported something even more disturbing. Individual Vorlon were beginning to experience private thoughts, separate from the collective consciousness. For a species that had shared every thought for 6 million years, this was existential horror. Some Vorlon were fascinated by the experience. Others were terrified. Captain Kim was right to be worried, Jian said as she reviewed reports in Sunwoo's office. She had been spending more time with human-alien trade teams, and what she saw troubled her. I was at the trading post yesterday. A young Krelvan approached me in private. She said she wanted to leave her homeworld and explore the galaxy. She said meeting humans made her realize there was more to life than following the path her family had walked for generations. Sunwoo, her parents are devastated. Her entire community sees her as sick. Sunwoo pulled up a holographic display showing the spread of what he was now calling mimetic infection. Red dots marked every location where aliens had contact with humans. Yellow zones showed where behavioral changes had been reported. The pattern was clear and terrifying. Wherever humans went, change followed. It's not a disease, Sunwoo said slowly, understanding dawning on him. It's exposure to a different way of thinking. Most alien species evolved in environments that favored stability and conformity. They developed civilizations based on unchanging hierarchies or collective consciousness. But humans evolved differently. We're individualistic. We question authority naturally. We want to change and grow and try new things. And when other species see that it's possible to think this way, some of them can't help but want it too. Like showing a bird raised in a cage that there's an open sky outside, Jian said quietly. Exactly. And once they see it, they can't unsee it. The situation escalated rapidly. Within 6 months of first contact, over 40 alien species reported cultural disruptions. Young aliens were rebelling against ancient traditions. Workers were forming unions to demand better conditions. Artists were creating controversial works that challenged their society's core beliefs. Scientists were asking questions their cultures had considered, settled for millions of years. Some species adapted relatively well. The Tarian people, who had always been slightly more individualistic than other aliens, embraced the changes. Their civilization experienced what their historians would later call a golden age. Innovation exploded. New technologies emerged. Their art and music became more diverse and creative than ever before, but other species struggled. The Quel'Thar, whose entire civilization was built on a rigid religious hierarchy that had existed for 8 million years, faced civil unrest when some of their people began questioning the teachings of their priests. For a species that had never known religious doubt, the crisis was devastating. Riots broke out on 3 of their worlds. Their government fell into chaos. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Dr. Sunwoo Han was asked to testify, along with Ambassador Yuna Lee and several alien observers who had studied human-alien interactions. Dr. Han, the lead counselor said, your research suggests that human ideas are spreading like a contagion. Is this correct? Sunwoo stood before the assembled aliens, feeling small but determined. Not a contagion. That word suggests disease. What's spreading is awareness. Concepts like personal freedom, individual rights, the value of questioning and changing. These aren't diseases. They're just different ways of organizing society. An alien counselor, representing a species that looked like walking crystals, spoke up angrily. Different? Doctor, your different ways have destabilized civilizations that stood unchanged for millions of years. The Quoth are on the brink of civil war. The Vorlon collective is fragmenting. The Metheny caste system is collapsing. This is disaster, not progress. Is it? Jian spoke up from beside Sunwoo. Or is it evolution? Maybe your civilizations were stable because they were stagnant. Maybe change was always needed, but everyone was too afraid to try. The chamber erupted in angry sounds from multiple species. The crystalline being's voice cut through the noise. You admit it then. You admit that contact with humans destroys our way of life. It challenges it, Sunwoo said firmly. There's a difference. Some of your people see human ideas and reject them. They're perfectly happy with their traditional ways, and that's fine. But others see human ideas and realize there might be another path. You're not upset that humans are forcing change. You're upset that you can't control your own people anymore once they learn that alternatives exist. The enduring ones, who had been silent until now, pulsed with light. The doctor speaks truth. This is what we feared. This is what happened before, 3 million years ago. Another species emerged that spread similar ideas. The resulting chaos nearly destroyed all galactic civilization. It took 1 million years to recover. We call that time the Great Silence. We cannot allow it to happen again. Then, what do you propose? Yuna asked. Force humanity back into quarantine? Not just humanity, the enduring one said heavily. All species affected by exposure to human ideas must be quarantined as well. The infection must be contained before it spreads further. The chamber fell silent. Every being present understood what this meant. Dozens of species would be cut off from galactic civilization. Entire sectors of space would be sealed away. The cost would be enormous. A small alien, one Sunwoo recognized as a Krelvan elder, stepped forward hesitantly. Enduring ones, I speak for my people. We have been affected by human contact. Our young question our old ways. But I have also seen my people create beauty I never thought possible. I have seen them dream of futures beyond what our ancestors imagined. If this is infection, then I say we do not want the cure. We want the freedom to choose what we become, even if that choice is difficult. More aliens began to speak up. Not all of them, but enough. Representatives from species that had embraced change rather than feared it. They spoke of new discoveries, new art, new possibilities. They spoke of the pain of change, but also its rewards. And for the first time in 12 million years, the Galactic Council was truly divided. Some wanted to contain the spread of human ideas by any means necessary. Others argued that perhaps it was time for the galaxy to wake up from its long sleep. The meeting ended without resolution, but Sunwoo knew the decision would come soon. The galaxy would either embrace change or fight to remain frozen in time. And humanity stood at the center of that choice, whether they wanted to or not. The galaxy was fracturing. 2 years after humanity's first contact with alien civilizations, the changes were no longer subtle. They were everywhere, and they were accelerating. Min Ji-song stood on the balcony of the human embassy on Krelvan Prime, watching the streets below fill with protesters. But these weren't human protesters. They were Krelvan, holding signs written in their own language that the translator in her ear rendered as freedom for all. And we choose our own path. Some of the signs bore a symbol that had become common across multiple worlds. A human handprint surrounded by stars. It had become the symbol of revolution. This is getting out of control, Dahyun Lim said from behind her. The corporate leader had come to Krelvan Prime to establish manufacturing facilities, hoping to profit from cheap alien labor. Instead, he had found himself in the middle of a cultural revolution. "My factories are empty." The workers walked out this morning, demanding what they call fair wages and personal time. These concepts didn't even exist in their language 6 months ago. Minji turned to face him, her expression hard. Maybe they should have existed. Maybe treating workers like machines was wrong, even if it was traditional. "Easy for you to say," Daoyun shot back. "You're not losing billions because aliens suddenly decided they deserve human rights." "Alien rights," Minji corrected. "They don't want to be human. They want the same freedoms humans have. The freedom to choose their own work, their own lives, their own futures." Down in the streets, the Krelvan protest was growing. Minji could see the city guard, traditionally absolute in their authority, standing uncertain. Some of them were lowering their weapons. A few were even joining the protesters. The old order was crumbling before her eyes. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. On Methany worlds, the rigid caste system that had existed for 4 million years was collapsing as individuals refused to accept their assigned roles. On Vorlon collective planets, individual Vorlon were physically separating from the hive mind, choosing to live as independent beings despite the psychological pain. On Kolthar Prime, priests who had never been questioned in 8 million years found their temples empty as young Kolthar turned to philosophy and science instead of ancient religion. But not all the changes were peaceful. The Thick Empire, a militaristic species that had maintained order through brutal discipline for 2 million years, responded to unrest with violence. When their soldiers began questioning orders, asking why they served, the Empire's rulers cracked down. Entire planets were put under martial law. Thousands died. The Empire declared humanity an enemy of galactic peace and sealed their borders completely. The Xanathi Collective took a different approach. Terrified of the changes they saw spreading through neighboring species, they began genetic modifications on their own population, trying to suppress the very capacity for independent thought. The results were horrifying. Some Xanathi became little more than biological machines. Others went insane from the cognitive dissonance. Their civilization teetered on the edge of collapse. Captain Hyunwoo Kim, now promoted to admiral and head of Earth's space fleet, sat in a command meeting with representatives from dozens of worlds. Some were human colonies that had sprung up on planets offered by sympathetic aliens. Others were aliens who had embraced change and now looked to humanity for guidance on how to manage it. "The Thak Empire has demanded we return to quarantine," Hyunwoo said, displaying a holographic message. "They claim humanity is a disease that must be eradicated." They're not alone. 17 species have signed a petition calling for forced containment of Earth and all worlds that have been contaminated by human contact. A Krelvan representative, a young female named Kalmyra, who had become one of the first alien activists, spoke up. "With respect, Admiral, my people will not accept being abandoned. We have tasted freedom. We will not return to the old ways, even if the price is isolation." "It might not be isolation they offer," said Commander Johan Jang, Hyunwoo's tactical officer. "Intelligence suggests the Thak Empire is building a fleet. They may try to force the issue militarily." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. A war, not between two species, but between two philosophies. Those who wanted the galaxy to remain unchanged, and those who had embraced evolution. The enduring ones called another emergency council session. This time, the chamber was packed with representatives from every known species. The tension was thick enough to cut. "The situation is worse than we feared," the lead enduring one announced, its crystalline body pulsing with agitation. "We have uncovered records from our archives from the time before the Great Silence. 3 million years ago, a species called the Precursors emerged. Like humans, they were individualistic, innovative, and questioning. Like humans, they spread ideas that disrupted stable civilizations. The hologram showed images of a galaxy in chaos, ancient civilizations tearing themselves apart, wars spanning thousands of worlds, entire sectors of space going dark as species destroyed themselves or simply vanished. The precursors did not survive. The enduring one continued. They were hunted down by a coalition of species terrified of the changes they represented. But by then, the damage was done. The galaxy descended into a dark age that lasted 1 million years. We enduring ones barely survived. Most species did not. Of the 10,000 civilizations that existed before the precursors, only 100 survived to rebuild. Binge, who had been invited to the council as Earth's representative for cultural affairs, stood up. So you're saying we should be destroyed? To prevent history from repeating? No, the enduring one said, surprising everyone. We are saying we face an impossible choice. Humanity cannot be destroyed. You are not evil. Your ideas are not wrong. They are simply dangerous to those unprepared for them. But neither can we allow the galaxy to descend into chaos again. Too many will die. Too much will be lost. Then what's the solution? Admiral Hyunwoo asked. There may not be one, a different enduring one replied. We have maintained peace for 12 million years by enforcing stability. No change, no growth, no evolution. It worked. The galaxy has been safe. But now we understand the cost of that safety. We understand what we have lost. The crystalline beings seem to dim with sadness. We look at you humans and we see what we once were billions of years ago, before we chose eternal existence over growth. Before we became crystalline and unchanging. We were once beings of flesh and fire, full of passion and dreams and terrible, beautiful chaos. We traded all of that for the peace of never changing, never dying, never feeling. And now you show us what we sacrificed, and it hurts in ways we thought we had forgotten. The admission sent shockwaves through the chamber. The enduring ones, the oldest and most powerful beings in the galaxy, admitting doubt, admitting loss. But if we choose change, an alien counselor protested, if we allow this awakening to continue, civilizations will fall. People will die. There will be chaos and war and suffering. Yes, Minji said quietly. There will be. Because growth is painful. Change is hard. Evolution requires struggle. But the alternative is to remain frozen forever, pretending that safety is the same as living. A Qualthar priest, one of the few who had accepted the changes in his society, stood. My people are in turmoil. Our old certainties are crumbling. Young Qualthar question everything we once held sacred. It is painful. It is terrifying. But I have also seen my people discover wonder for the first time. I have seen them create new things, think new thoughts, dream new dreams. We are suffering the birth pains of becoming something more than we were. The debate raged for hours. Some species demanded humanity be sealed away, by force if necessary. Others argued for embracing the change and helping civilizations adapt. The Thak Empire's representative announced their fleet would launch in 1 month, targeting Earth and all worlds that refused to return to traditional ways. Finally, the enduring ones made their decision. We will not enforce the quarantine, the lead enduring one announced. We will not wage war to preserve the old ways. But neither will we force species to change against their will. The galaxy will split. Those who wish to remain unchanged may do so, in sectors protected from human influence. Those who wish to evolve may join humanity and face whatever comes together. And if the Thak Empire attacks? Admiral Hyunwoo asked. Then we will defend those who choose change, the enduring one said. We are tired of being eternal and empty. Perhaps it is time for even us to risk growth again. The choice had been made. The galaxy was awakening, whether it wanted to or not. And humanity stood at the center of the storm they had created, ready to face whatever consequences came next. The vote was scheduled for midnight, Earth Standard Time. Every human on every world would have their say. Accept isolation and save the galaxy from chaos, or embrace freedom and face the consequences. The decision would shape not just humanity's future, but the future of every species in the galaxy. Secretary General Hannah Park stood in the United Earth Assembly, addressing representatives from every nation and colony. Behind her, massive screens showed the faces of billions of humans waiting to cast their votes. Beside her stood Admiral Hyunwoo Kim, weathered by years of impossible decisions. And in the front row sat a young woman named Sora Beek, a university student who had become the voice of Earth's youth through her passionate speeches about humanity's right to exist freely. Citizens of Earth, Hannah began, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. We face a choice that should never have been ours to make. Return to quarantine, seal ourselves away from the galaxy, and allow other civilizations to remain as they have been for millions of years. Or refuse and accept responsibility for the changes our existence brings to others. The assembly was silent. Everyone knew the stakes. The Thak Empire's fleet was already moving. Dozens of alien species were preparing for civil wars. The galaxy teetered on the edge of either peace or chaos, and humanity held the deciding vote. I understand those who favor quarantine, Hannah continued. I have spoken with them. They are not cowards. They are compassionate people who do not wish to cause harm. They look at the turmoil in alien civilizations and feel responsible. They believe the kindest choice is to remove ourselves from the equation. She paused, looking out at the assembled humans and aliens who had gathered to watch this historic moment. But I have also spoken with aliens who have embraced change. I have met Krelvan artists creating beauty their ancestors never imagined. I have spoken with Volan individuals who describe the pain of separation from their collective mind, but also the joy of discovering their own thoughts. I have listened to Qualthar scientists making discoveries their religion once forbade. And I have heard them say, again and again, that they would not trade this painful freedom for their old comfortable chains. Admiral Hyunwoo stepped forward. I was the first human to make contact with alien life. I've spent 5 years working with species from across the galaxy. I've seen the good and the bad of what human ideas have sparked. I've watched civilizations struggle and sometimes fail. I've seen violence and chaos, but I've also seen growth. I've seen species accomplish in a few years what they hadn't managed in millions of years of stagnation. He looked directly at the camera, speaking to every human watching. The enduring ones told me that the galaxy has been stable for 12 million years. Stable, not thriving, not growing, not discovering or creating or dreaming. Just stable. Frozen in time like insects in amber. They call it peace. I call it death by another name. Murmurs ran through the assembly. Some in agreement, others in concern. Then Sora Beek stood up. She hadn't been scheduled to speak, but Hannah nodded for her to approach the podium. The young woman's hand shook slightly as she faced the assembly, but her voice was strong. I'm 22 years old, Sora began. My whole life, I've heard stories about the stars, about exploration and discovery and meeting other civilizations. When I learned we'd finally reached the galaxy, I cried with joy. Then I learned the galaxy wanted us to stay home, to lock ourselves away, to pretend we don't exist. And I felt something I'd never felt before. I felt angry. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of both humans and aliens present. The enduring ones say our ideas are dangerous. They say concepts like freedom and individual rights and questioning authority are like a virus. Maybe they're right. Maybe those ideas do spread from one person to another, impossible to contain once they're out. But you know what? Good. I'm glad they spread. I'm glad that when aliens meet us and see that we question our leaders, pursue our own dreams, and change our societies when they're not working, they think maybe I could do that too. Her voice grew more passionate. The galaxy has been stable for 12 million years. The same governments, the same social structures, the same way of thinking. Generation after generation after generation, with nothing changing, nothing growing, nothing new. They call that stability. I call that a prison. And we're being asked to join them in that prison willingly, to lock our door from the inside. Because some people can't handle knowing that another way exists. Several aliens in the audience shifted uncomfortably, but others, particularly younger aliens from species that had embraced change, were nodding. Ideas can't be contained, Sora continued, her voice ringing through the chamber. Freedom, once tasted, can't be unlearned. The galaxy chose stagnation for safety, and they existed, but they didn't live. Now they've met us, and some of them are remembering what it means to actually live. Yes, it's painful. Yes, it's chaotic. Yes, some societies will struggle and fail, but that's what evolution looks like. That's what growth costs. And it's worth it. She turned to face the cameras directly, speaking to every human watching across all the worlds. Vote however your conscience tells you. If you believe the kindest choice is isolation, vote for it. I won't call you wrong. But if you believe that other beings deserve the same chance at freedom that we have, if you believe that growth matters more than safety, if you believe the galaxy should wake up from its 12 million year sleep, then vote to stay. Vote to engage. Vote to risk being who we are, openly and without apology. The assembly erupted in discussion. Hannah let it continue for several minutes before calling for order. The vote begins now, she announced. Every human citizen, regardless of age or location, may cast their ballot. The results will be final and binding. We will accept quarantine or refuse it based on the will of our people. Across Earth and its colonies, across space stations and ships, billions of humans voted. The decision was neither easy nor unanimous. 42% voted for quarantine, believing it was the responsible choice. They were sincere in their conviction that removing humanity from the equation would prevent suffering, but 58% voted to remain free. They chose the right to exist openly in the galaxy, whatever the cost. When the results were announced, Hannah Park sent a message to the Galactic Council. Humanity has made its choice. We will not accept quarantine. We will not hide ourselves away to make others comfortable. But we offer this compromise. We will help. We will teach species that want to learn how to handle change without self-destructing. We will share what we've learned about managing freedom, diversity, and rapid evolution. We will not abandon the galaxy to chaos. We will guide it through the transition. The message was called the Guided Awakening Protocol. It proposed establishing academies where aliens could learn to adapt to individualistic thinking, support networks for species experiencing cultural upheaval, counseling for collective beings learning to separate, conflict resolution teams for societies in civil strife. Humanity would not just spread disruptive ideas and walk away. They would help others learn to thrive with those ideas. The enduring ones considered the proposal for 3 days. Finally, they responded. We accept, the ancient beings announced. We were wrong. Stagnation is not safety. It is merely slow extinction. We have existed for 12 million years, but we have not lived in all that time. We forgot what it meant to grow, to change, to risk failure for the chance at something better. You humans have reminded us. The Thak Empire refused to accept the decision. Their fleet launched, determined to force humanity back into quarantine and restore the old galactic order. But they found themselves alone. Even species that had initially supported containment could not bring themselves to wage war against the very concept of freedom. When the THAC fleet arrived at Earth, they found it defended not just by human ships, but by vessels from dozens of species that had chosen change over stagnation. The THAC commander, seeing he was outnumbered and outmatched, chose to withdraw rather than start a war he couldn't win. The THAC Empire sealed its borders completely, choosing total isolation rather than adapt. A few other species made the same choice. The galaxy let them go. Isolation, after all, was a choice they had every right to make. 50 years later, Captain Hyung-woo Kim, now an old man, stood on the observation deck of the First Galactic Academy. Below him, thousands of students from hundreds of species learned together. Humans taught philosophy and governance. Krelvin taught art and emotional expression. Voral individuals taught the value of community while maintaining individuality. Quothar mystics taught the balance between tradition and innovation. The galaxy had not descended into chaos as the enduring ones once feared. There had been struggles, certainly. Some species adapted easily. Others suffered through difficult transitions. A few had fallen into civil wars that took decades to resolve. But all of them had grown. All of them had evolved. Sora Beak, now middle-aged and an instructor at the academy, joined Hyun-woo at the window. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "The choice we made?" Hyun-woo watched a group of mixed-species students below, debating some philosophical point with enthusiasm.